Vice President Atiku Abubakar has stated that contrary to the claim by Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited to be a private firm, it remains the ATM of the federal government. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 general elections therefore demanded the listing of the corporation on the stock exchange in line with Petroleum Industry Act. Atiku stated this in reaction to the decision of the NNPCL to hand over Warri and Kaduna refineries to private operators who are expected to manage and operate them. He said, the NNPCL is supposed to have been listed on the stock exchange in line with the Petroleum Industry Act. This would make the company more profitable and enhance transparency and corporate governance. Atiku, in a statement, further alleged that the NNPC Limited continues to provide political protection to the President Bola Tinubu government's policy inconsistency on the payment of subsidy, raising questions about the independence that the PIA requires of the NNPC Limited as a private business concern. The ex-PDP presidential candidate said previous arrangements and concessions had not worked because of a lack of transparency in the contract award process, as well as the failure of the government to attract investors. The former vice president said for such a deal to succeed at all, the Bureau of Public Enterprise and a credible technical partner must be part of the process. What do you have to say to this, Jamala?
Lorecia, I think I agree with
Atiku.
The Atiku from in all falls. I agree with him.
All right.
From the beginning to the end. You see, when PIA, Petroleum Industry Act 2022, came into effect, 2020, sorry, came into effect, when I went through it, I said this somehow is not so different from the various Petroleum Industry Acts. Sorry, the various petroleum laws that were existing in Nigeria. To the extent that the only difference is that it made NNPC a public going concern, and therefore allows for a period of time where the individuals can buy into the shares and become stakeholders. And that the NNPC, by so doing, having listed in the stock exchange market, will now begin to be operated within the code of governance. It has to do with companies code of governance. And therefore, it set a precedence for how companies should be regulated, especially board of directors and whatever organs of the company as the case may be. If you look some days ago, if it's up to a week, where a sister station like yours, where some set of directors were asked to leave within a period of time between now and I think ending of this month. And the general manager then, if that's the name, the nomenclature they give it to him, explained that it is in line with the code of governance, regulating activities of limited liabilities companies, public liabilities companies. And that is all. But for NNPC, throughout even the appointment of the board was done by the president, which is a negation to the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act. Members of the board appointed by the president, same, a negation. Then if we talk about giving an account, rendering of account, NNPC has nothing to do with the Ministry of Finance. If you are to go by the true provision of how it was incorporated and becomes a liability company, it has nothing to do with the government. I agree government has some shares in it, but decisions should be taken upon the meeting of the board of directors. We are supposed to be having our monthly meeting, our annual AGM. That has not been happened. It has still, NNPCL is still operating as though it were NNPC Nigeria. So there is no difference. And Atiku, having been the second man in the country, knows how during their reign, how they were moving funds from NNPC. So he has all this information. We are told subsidy is gone. All of a sudden, we are told that NNPC, the directive from the federal government, that NNPC profit that ought to have been sent to the federal government's account for states to share that they should hold it back to augment a subsidy payment for some number of months. That is not the decision of the board of directors. Even state, that is where I like Wike to some extent. The decision of federal government in that circumstance alone calls for state to take action, it is not the decision of the state government that use our money to pay subsidy.
Yes.
If federal government wants subsidy to be paid, you can use your own money to pay. It's a federal government affair.
The state should not suffer for it.
The state should not suffer for it. But the federal government has unilaterally taken that decision, again influencing the outcomes of the NNPC Limited. So if you look at that, they have not been operated as a company, properly so-called as provided for under the Petroleum Industry Act, but rather they have been acting as the old NNPC that take directives from the Minister of Petroleum. And who is the Minister of Petroleum in the circumstance? The President himself. There is no accountability. We do not know how much the NNPC is making. We do not know how much they are spending. We're only told once in a while, we spend this on subsidy. We do not have resources. So I agree with Atiku for whatever he has. I remember he has his ears on the ground. He has his information. Those who the president has even calling to give him those information, Atiku already has the information most times before it gets to the president himself. Because it is what the Minister for State, Petroleum, tells the president that he believes. It is what the Minister for Finance tells the president that he believes. It is what KRA tells the president that he believes. But it is the insiders, those providing the true picture of what exists in the NNPCL that are reporting to Atiku Abubakar. So I believe he's more informed than the president himself. Interesting.
Ndamzi, what do you have to say to this?
Yes, my colleague have reiterated and posited about the corporate structure of NNPCL as it is today in the system. But the NNPCL have not functioned like he stated, like a public-private limited liability company, which ordinarily it should be. It has still remained what it is. And a particular concern is on the bid and award of contracts in NNPC. It has remained the same. You can see in handing over Kaduna and Warri refineries to private operators, Bureau for Public Enterprise, which is supposed to be a major stakeholder, was not carried along. In taking such decisions, technical partners ought to be involved because people need to assess the facility and come up with an on-the-spot report. But in this case, that never happened. They did it the way they just stay in their various offices and come up with a policy, allocate something to whichever company they think, will favor them. So the NNPCL need to function as a private liability company. And like my colleague said, before decisions are made, there should be an annual general meetings where shareholders, board of directors, and others will meet, take a decision, and ratify it before going to the public. But in this case, we can't find any of those happening. We just heard on the news that Kaduna Refinery and Warri have been concessions to privatize. I mean, things like that shouldn't be encouraged. Then why do we have the Bureau for Public Enterprise? We didn't find any bid anywhere calling for qualified companies to make applications. It was not made open because there are 1,001 qualified both companies and technical partners which can drive this system very well. You even see in a situation where Shell declined the call to come and manage those refineries because
their reason was endemic corruption.
Endemic corruption. That is it. NNPC is not accountable to anybody. National Assembly have asked them severally to bring in audited reports and accounts of sales till date. KRA have not responded. KRA, I remember in some time ago, was invited by the National Assembly to come for questioning. He bluntly refused. So these men have made themselves so powerful to the extent they think they are more powerful than the country itself. The BPE, has a major role to play in concessioning any part of the NNPC, any of the refineries. In fact, the BPE is even the agency authorized to go about publicizing and inviting technical partners and qualified partners to come and manage those refineries. But we didn't find that happening. So the endemic corruption is just so annoying, and that is the reason we have not had it right with the fuel situation. Because without fear or favor, I think the president is really offending Nigerians. And him being a father, I don't think he needs more money at this age. What does he need all this money for? If I were him, even I would give out my salary as palliative to Nigerians. Of course.
Do you know how much a president earns?
Even though I may not have the rightful figure here, if I were him, see, the president, before he became president, is stinkingly rich. Stinkingly rich. And I know one of the reasons Nigerians supported President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is because we believe, oh, this man is so rich and all that.
But
give us...
You could tell one of the reasons why you supported him.
Did you vote for the president?
No, I never voted for the president.
Don't say Nigerians then.
No, but it is believed that he won the election.
It is believed.
INEC declared him president.
And the court affirmed so.
And the court affirmed so. So Nigerians voted for him. We can't rule out that fact until Nigerians do otherwise sometime in the future. So what we're trying to say is the government should look at the plight of the people. This endemic corruption should be discouraged. It should be. I mean, NNPC has become a hub of corruption. We don't even know how many vessels leave Bonny Terminal daily. We don't know how many drops and liters of oil they sell. And see, Laurentia, I was reading a report on how Saudi Arabia, added value to their oil system. Okay, do you know that in Saudi Arabia, a drop of oil cannot leave the shores of Saudi Arabia without the citizens knowing? Yes, of course, there is a platform where everybody participates in knowing how much they have sold, how many drops of oil left the shores of the country. With that, accountability and checks and balances will be in the system.
All right.
But in this case, who says we cannot deploy technologies in Bonny Terminal?
All right. All right, interesting. Jamala, what do you have to say in your closing statement?
In my closing statement, I will start first to ask RISEC to borrow a leave from Osun. Yes. ONSEC or OSEC. Osun State, yes. I want River State to borrow leaves, set up a committee to verify that our candidates, let's reduce post-election litigations.
Right.
And let NNPC, Nigeria Limited, the call for Mr. President to resign as a Minister for Petroleum is ripe, and I think he should heed to that call. Just like we appoint a doctor to be a commissioner, minister for health, let's also appoint a professional in the field that knows the oil business very well to also be the minister for petroleum resources. A minister report directly to the president. And there are some decisions the minister will not take except the president gives a nod to it. So if that has been the fear for president, both past and present, to always hold tight that ministry, then they are not doing the nation right. Buying fuel, PMS, 1,000 naira per liter, and buying kerosene, 2,600 per liter. For a nation that will have it underneath us, is never a good thing to write home about.
All right. All right. Ndamze, very quickly.
Okay, I will close my statement by calling on the NNPC to review the partner they have allocated or they have given the two refineries.
Okay.
BPE should be carried along, and it should be advertised in such a way that technical partners can come in. So, because if we do not get it right, it will just be business as usual.
All right. Thank you so much, Ndamzi, for coming on Open Conversation. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much, Jamala. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you for inviting me once again.
All right. At this